Welcome in to the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star review. I'm Lindsay Smith, here with Saul Bookman, Espo, and Gerald Bourget. You guys feeling okay after we're finally home, back in our own studio, our own beds, all the things. I'm happy to be in Phoenix again.
Same. Yeah, it's good to tell by my voice. I'm very happy to be back now.
I feel like my liver got punched, but other than that, I'm good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel great. We're in our matching shirts today.
Yes.
The vibes are back.
Saul and I are wearing the same pants. Gerald and I are wearing the same shirt.
Saul and Shane wearing the same shirt. It's just twinsies all around.
Also, happy anniversary, Espo.
Thank you.
Last night, him and the missus celebrated the anniversary.
Let's talk about the fun part of that, though. I take my wife out to a very nice dinner after spending 4 days basically attached at the hip with Saul. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, we're eating dessert, and all of a sudden...
No, they weren't eating dessert.
I was devouring dessert.
I walk in and I see my guy just tonguing the hell out of this spoon full of chocolate.
That was not necessary.
It's not a raw description.
He was like licking the spoon.
That's fine.
He was
you could have
so
just
in love
said
with
that.
this spoon. And it was just so funny that I had to come over and say
I
hi.
kind of had my head down. This guy slides right in next to my wife and goes, "Happy anniversary." And I was like, the fuck?
Can you leave, please? Sir.
I'm celebrating my 13th anniversary. Only my first professionally with you. Can I have a little space?
This is true, but I do want to read a text to you of what Espo sent me right afterwards.
No.
I was like, man, I hope I didn't ruin your evening. He said, nope, you got me in the mood.
Oh, no.
To wit, and then I said, hope I didn't ruin your evening with that. So...
I feel like I need to go home now.
Lizzie's very disgruntled by it.
I'm very embarrassed that you read the text. I feel violated now.
I thought it was funny.
It is funny, but for you, not for public consumption.
You're looking at me like I can do anything. It's already, ship has sailed.
Oh, it's Trade Machine Tuesday. Let's get lit.
Was any of that necessary?
It's always necessary.
Was any of that actually beneficial to anybody listeling to this?
I don't know. Did you guys like it? Hey, there we go.
Should the three of us just get up and walk out and protest?
All right, well, let's get into Suns talk, which is why we're here in the first place.
Josh in the chat.
Yesterday, Brian Windhorst said, quote, "We believe that the Indiana Pacers are very close to giving DeAndre Ayton an offer sheet or executing a sign-in trade. We could see something with the Pacers and Ayton as early as today." Obviously, that was yesterday, and we didn't see anything happen, but that doesn't mean that something couldn't be coming down the line, and it's finally just at least another piece of news that we were questioning over the weekend. Why haven't we heard anything? Like, what's going on? We thought all these teams were interested. Now we're getting some more rumors, if you will, that things are moving a little bit quicker, which we all love.
Well, this feels like it's the only option left, right? I mean, there's not a lot of other suitors at this point, so I think it really comes down to, is this part of a 3-team deal in a sign and trade? Is this a 1-for-1, which then is Myles Turner? And there's been speculation by people like Gambo and the like that the Suns aren't all that interested in Myles Turner, but may take him because it's a 1-year expiring. But yeah, it feels like it's Indiana or nobody's making an offer to DA, and then it's a qualifying offer to the Suns offer him something.
Yeah, and it continues to be baffling. We talked about this the other day, and we played that great David Aldridge clip when we talked to him. But it is baffling that this is what the market for DA has kind of been reduced to. And, obviously the Suns have some of that power, being that he's a restricted free agent and can match. But with as tumultuous as the season end and all the vibes that were being put out there that, like, hey, they're not interested in keeping him around, you would have thought one team would have thrown him a max, and I do wonder if it's because the Suns are trying to work on something behind the scenes with DA that satisfies everybody involved.
I get that aspect, but I legitimately feel like at this point that the Suns were right. Mm-hmm. They were absolutely right. Mm-hmm. They offered him, allegedly, they offered him a 4-year max. He rejected it because he wanted the 5th year. Mm-hmm. And they were like, all right, fuck it. and they did the right thing because they're going to end up either getting KD or they're going to end up saving money on Deandre Ayton, one of those two, which is a benefit to the Suns. DA misplayed this whole thing. He fumbled the bag on this one. He did. And so I do think that even though there's chatter of Indiana being around, like, they are the only team left. They really are. I can't see a scenario where DA goes to another team that's not Indiana. I just can't. Like, they're the only ones that have even rumored to be interested outside of Atlanta, but Atlanta's out of the picture.
Utah was briefly in there, but there hasn't been much traction on that since. So
if it winds up being Indiana, I go back to the trade deadline and go, maybe you should have just pulled the trigger for Sabonis when that was on the table. If Myles Turner's what you're going to get instead. Like, it feels like in hindsight that may have been a missed opportunity, but at that point you're the best team in the NBA. You think you're going to make a run at the finals. So I understand why James Jones hesitated and didn't make that move.
So Suns tricked us in the comments, said Indiana would have had max space already if they waited on the Jalen Smith signing. And yes, that is true. But I also found this very interesting on Arizona Sports yesterday. Kevin Bowen, who is a radio host in Indiana, joined them on the show. And he said that, just based on the Pacers' track record, you can come to the conclusion that they're not typically inclined to handing out offer sheets. They try to do more sign and trade deals with teams. And he said one of the reasons for that is because their owner feels like restricted free agency is a little bit unfair at times. And so that's one side of the coin, is he wants to actually work with the team to make sure both sides are getting something of value back. But then in addition to that, it's kind of hard to put out an offer sheet from any team because you don't know 100% for sure that you're going to get that player. The other team could always match. And then now if you've traded somebody to make room for the cap space, now you've just lost out on that for nothing, essentially. So sign and trades are typically their way of doing business when they want a restricted free agent.
I think it's kind of cute that the owner cares about the other teams. It's like, I don't want to screw them in this. I'd like them to get a parting gift from this guy.
Here's the thing, though, is like, because you have to work with all of these people later on down the road. If you do something that is super shady or that screws over their plans, eventually, at some point in time, you guys are going to cross paths again. And then nobody's going to play ball with you.
He's the Derek Jeter of NBA owners. He gives them a gift basket if he's going to try to screw them. I like it. So,
everything points to this being a sign and trade and not a max offer sheet because, like I forgot who it was in the comments pointed out, and Brendan Clean said the same on Locked On Suns. If they wanted to give him a max offer sheet, they could have held off on making the Jalen Smith signing official and preserve some of that cap space, but they didn't do that. So now they would have to shed some salary to be able to get to max territory for him. So it does feel like a sign and trade, and it does feel like it could be conceivably for something less than the max. I think if you're DA at this point, you are holding out for the max, but maybe it's been long enough to where you lower your price a little bit and realize the market is just not in your favor. You're not going to play on that the qualifying offer, because A, you're only making about $16 million, and B, that hamstrings you next year as far as what you are able to sign for if you join another team, because it goes down to like 4 years and I think $85 million, somewhere in that range. So you are really shooting yourself in the foot if you do that. So I do think all signs point to a sign and trade. The Pacers make the most sense right now at this point. It's just curious to see if the Suns will be able to get any other asset other than just Turner, because I think most of us are in agreement at the center position alone. That is a pretty, not a significant downgrade, but it is a downgrade for sure.
Is it, from the Suns' perspective, there's just, if you're not going to get KD in this whole thing, I don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah, if you're doing this deal with Indiana, you are basically saying we are all in on KD and we are going to make it happen. Because if you don't make it happen, then you have gotten worse at the center position. You haven't gotten Kevin Durant. Like, you would have been better off just running it back, signing him to a 4-year deal of some sort, and figuring it out from there, trading him down the line in January when he's trade eligible if you have to. But like, if you're making this move for Myles Turner, you have got to be getting assets that you can then reroute to Brooklyn and you've got to be all in on Kevin Durant. You can't come up empty there.
I can't see a scenario where James Jones pulls the trigger on this trade and doesn't set himself up for some type of other success other than KD. Like, you have to think about that potential, right? Like, what assets am I getting back from Indiana that I could leverage to maybe get somebody different that could help this ball club and supplement some of the loss from DA? James Jones seems like that kind of a kind of cover your all bases kind of guy. I could be totally wrong. He might fumble this bag too.
We're gonna find out.
We're certainly gonna find out because like there is a part of me that's like, oh shit, I mean, like if DA signs this offer sheet. Whew, man, there's going to be a lot of people. All those people that were shitting all over DA, I guarantee you they're going to be on the other side of the fence talking about, why did we give up DA for nothing? Why did we went after KD? We couldn't even get him. This franchise is blah, blah, blah. Like, they're definitely going to come around on that. Because even if you don't like DA, you understand that he does have more value than just getting Myles Turner back.
I mean, yeah, James Jones is walking a tightrope here. But my guess is... Well, obviously, he has more information than the rest of us. He knows
right.
where they're sitting in terms of what Brooklyn wants. And I think it's kind of a stare down right now between the two. And at some point, one side's going to have to give up a little bit of what they're wanting to accomplish here. Either the Suns are going to have to throw in something they're holding back on, or Brooklyn's going to back off a little bit on what they're expecting. But he has to... I imagine he's pretty strong in his conviction, like you said, that they're going to get KD if they pull a sign and trade with Indiana. Because if you're not, like you were saying, Gerald, you've managed to get worse, and you've also wasted so much time that there's not a lot of options to try to fill holes as well. So you've pulled basically the one thing you couldn't do. You could have stood pat and added on the fringes. You could try to get a big fish like KD, but the one thing you can't do is strike out on all that, lose DA, and find no stopgaps in there, because now you're talking play-in territory.
Right, and I think it's important to note with James Jones that his asset management has not always been the priority. If you're looking just at individual trades, he hasn't always won the individual trade, but it's always been with the bigger picture in mind. Because you look at like TJ Warren, they gave him up for basically nothing, but they used that room to sign Ricky Rubio. This is kind of a much larger example of that type of thing, especially even if they don't trade him for Turner, they could just trade him into space and get a huge trade exception that then the pressure would be on to use that and try and land, maybe someone to fill the center spot, also land another backup point guard, that type of thing. So I think people should maybe brace themselves. If Ayton winds up in Indiana, the return is not going to be equal value for him. And we've talked about this hundreds of times by now. It's not going to be equal value, but it's going to be, what do you do with what you're getting in return? If it's a trade exception, if it's a first round pick, if it's Myles Turner and some extra cap space, like that's going to determine whether the trade is ultimately a success or a failure, not the individual return.
There's so few teams with that cap space to absorb Ayton that even that, I wonder, how do you accomplish it? Because those teams seem like they went in different directions. So absorbing Ayton's new contract, I'm not even sure. Well, there's a lot on the table that they could pull that off too. Right.
Like if you're talking about the Pacers, they still need to free up some cap space, which they could do with a couple of minor moves. But as of right now, they can't just take him on, at least on a max contract. They can't just take him on. So
another interesting piece of this puzzle is that DA and Myles Turner share the same agent. And KYB in the chat said they don't think the Suns will get Myles Turner because of that, and that it would be a bad look to replace one player for another at your agency. I don't know if that's a bad look from an agency perspective, but I do think that creates a weird or just a unique situation, because you have the same agent negotiating both sides essentially here. And it could create a little bit of awkwardness, I guess, between player agent if one of the players is getting a little bit of a better situation than the other. But at the end of the day, the agent's just doing the best they can for the players, but ultimately a lot of these teams have a good amount of the control.
I don't know. In this situation, I think it's kind of a win-win for both players. Let's just say Myles Turner did come to Phoenix and DA went to Indiana. DA gets to be the focal point of that offense like he's always wanted to be. He's going to make more money. And Myles Turner, in turn, comes to a place where he has a legitimate shot to possibly win a championship and up his stock if KD comes into the fold. And so I think it's a win-win on both sides. So I think that's an easy sell, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I don't know. I feel like for Myles Turner, it's obviously he's going to a better team, but he's also in a contract year, and I don't know if the Suns are the team that you are necessarily like. Based on what they've done with DA, maybe they're able to come to an agreement because Myles Turner won't be asking for a max. But it is kind of a weird thing. Like, okay, my agent failed to get this guy the bag with this team. Now he's sending me there in a contract year. It's a little dicey.
But you don't necessarily, if you're Myles Turner, you're not necessarily thinking like, oh, I'm going to stay with the Suns after this year.
Right.
You're trying to up your brand. And if there's a point guard out there that can supposedly take you to another level, it's Chris Paul.
That's fair.
And so, it's kind of like the same thing with Steve Nash. Steve Nash made a lot of dudes a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're hoping that you go to this place and the same thing will happen.
Well, and I think he can make the case, Bill Duffy, that hey, Indy doesn't want you. They're making this very clear. We can get you in a situation where, whether it's Phoenix or if they move you, where we maximize your potential, just like we did with DA, and we got him his money. You're next on deck. We will get you your money, and this is the best way to accomplish it. I mean, that's what agents are good at, selling people on ideas that maybe aren't in their best interest sometimes. It's how they get guys that don't deserve big money from teams, right? So I think Bill Duffy can definitely sell both sides on this. I don't see it as an issue because this happens a lot. Guys represent a lot of people that are involved in things. This wouldn't be the first time that an agent's guy has been traded for another guy that he represents. I don't think it's a huge issue, and I don't think if I'm Myles Turner, I want the hell out of Indy any way I can get right now because they've made it very clear we don't want you here, and it's our plan to trade you however we can. I look at it and I go, good. I don't have to be in a situation I'm not wanted. So
yeah, I do think it is a little bit more of a complication, which is already problematic because the situation has gotten so complicated with so many different parties that need to be appeased for something big to happen here. But I think you can overcome that, especially if both centers feel unwanted by their current team. It's just an interesting perspective that the guy in the middle is basically swapping them for teams that didn't want it. I don't know.
Shane, can we go back to the 2-shot real quick?
Uh-oh.
Worst before and after ever. Right
Oh, jeez.
Dear Lord.
It's what it looks like. Someday I'll look like you, Gerald. If I have a time
We'll
machine.
get in the gym in the off season. We'll be on muscle watch just like all
It
the
is
guys
the
showing up to
off-season.
training camp.
I'm going to add 10 pounds of muscle before training camp.
Is there-
Lindsay, I was in Vegas. Like, give me some time.
Is there a sleeper player that you guys wouldn't mind seeing in return from Indiana? Like maybe thrown in?
I feel like maybe like a Chris Duarte would be, or an O'Shea Brissett, but like if you look at the rest of that roster, they're not going to throw in Tyrese Halliburton, obviously. No. Buddy Hield is like making way too much money, so you'd have to throw in more pieces there.
TJ McConnell, Saul.
TJ McConnell wouldn't be bad.
I was setting it up for that, baby. I was setting it up for that.
That's not bad. I need to see what he makes to see how it would work. But
I think he only makes
like $8 million.
Yeah.
That would solve your needing a backup point guard.
I'm telling you,
there.
baby.
I mean,
nobody gets down on the floor like TJ McConnell.
If you got McConnell and you got Turner in a deal, you at least check the box of you get the Ayton replacement and you get the backup point guard. So if you don't get KD, you've at least answered some of your questions this offseason while still keeping you potentially able to trade for somebody down the line. That may not be the worst thing in the world.
Brad Smith in the chat said Saul's U of A is coming through. Yeah. This is true, but also like if DA goes to Indiana, that might as well be the University of Arizona because there's 3 players on that roster that have gone to U of A. So
yeah, I like McConnell. He's a great defensive player. He might be a campaign upgrade, but again, you'd have to throw in some salary there, and I'm not sure if Indiana would want campaign. I mean, TJ McConnell's not like an essential piece, so maybe campaign and DA I'd have to check the math, but maybe that for Myles Turner and TJ would work.
Because TJ is consistent.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting it with him every night. So that's probably the one selling point.
There's something to be said about consistency, even if it's less substantial than another player's best. I don't know. So that's a tough call, but sometimes consistency will win out.
No, 1,000,000%.
Yeah. We'll get a little bit more into the KD thing a little later in the show because it is Trade Machine Tuesday, but we're not in Vegas, but the Summer Suns are still in Vegas, and there is a game happening tonight against the Mavs, and the line's a pick'em, which means
Vegas has no freaking clue who's going to win.
Because both teams are trash.
Well, because it's Summer League. Every game in Summer League should be a pick'em.
It really
because there's no way to tell.
Well, and that's why, like, they won their first game by 20, and then they lost their second game by 25. So I think Vegas was just like, we have no idea. Whatever.
Yeah. Look.
so all of them are basically going to be a pick'em just so that Vegas is like, I don't know, at least we won't lose a ton of money on these.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And also, like, at this point in Summer League, like, some of the bigger name guys might not be playing as much because you're like, okay, we've seen what we needed to see. Now put this guy on bubble wrap.
Which should benefit the Suns because they have no big guys playing. They'll play that entire
I will
roster
not
all
stand
summer.
for this Ish Wainwright erasure.
Are you
sir.
gonna, well, let's put the bubble wrap around Ish. We're gonna need him for that 15th roster spot.
I like it.
I'm not saying I don't like Ish. I'm just saying it's not like Ben Matherin or one of these high draft picks that you're like, hey, can't get him injured. So,
Would you guys place a bet on a pick'em?
Well, yeah.
Or would you just-
if I was excited about the game.
well, I just take the money line at that point.
I mean,
That is the money line, Espo.
Well, yeah, but okay, so I'm betting on the money line.
So, yes.
Yes, I would.
I'm just curious if you would do it or if you would just be like, I'm going to sit this one out. Because there's not a huge, like...
Hammer the over.
Yeah? Okay. I don't know. I'm just asking. I've never
never seen
been in
it
this
either.
situation, so I'm asking the group's opinion.
Look, I'll be honest. I probably wouldn't bet on Summer League just because there is so much randomness, unless the payout was potentially huge in it. So I'm not gonna futz around the edges just to get a bet in there. So
Well, if you guys want to bet on Summer League, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. And when you use the promo code PHNX and make your first deposit, you're going to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. So if you do decide to bet on Summer League, at least it can be risk-free since there's a lot of uncertainty around all of these teams and you never know what you're going to get.
if somebody puts $1,000 bet on this pick'em game tonight, I will stand up and applaud you. Just send us a screenshot on it.
Absolutely.
Risk-free or not, let's send it this way.
That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So while we were at Summer League, we were able to catch up with a whole bunch of players and media members, and we told you throughout the week we'd start trickling out some of those conversations we had. So here's a compilation. We caught up with a few current and former Suns players as well as media and asked them how they deal with rumors around free agency and then their thoughts on the DA situation.
Man, it's hard for me to say that. I think that's more like a front office stuff, and I'm trying to focus on myself. That's the only thing how you can approach it.
I mean, you have to, because you don't, nobody really know what's going on or what's going to happen, and you can't predict what's going to happen. So you kind of have to just block it out and continue to work and try to get better.
I kind of do my own thing. I mean, I ain't really hit them up about it yet because I don't like influencing people's decisions, So but hey, if we get them, good for us. If we don't, I mean, we're gonna be good regardless. I'm happy with whatever he chooses.
Everything about the Suns has been shocking to me. But I mean, I think that's the reality of today's NBA with the center position. It's like if you're not an all-star, if you're not a number one guy, then I think they're probably gonna treat you like a running back in the NFL, right? It's like, well, you might be really good, but we'll find another guy who give us 80% of what you provide. So I think it's a tough market for Ayton, but I think that's just where the NBA is headed right now.
Yeah, I talked to DA a little bit, but I don't know anything about the situation, but I definitely talked to him.
I can't really control those things, I really like the guys, and that's not on me. It's really hard to comment and give you something something like a good answer. You know what I mean?
I mean, again, is he? Are you overpaying him? Yes. Get in line. You know what I mean? Like, we're suddenly having an austerity program in the NBA. We're going to start paying people what they're worth. I don't think we're going to do that because that's not what people do. Everybody's, there's 25 guys that are overpaid in the league now. It's just the way it is.
So do you believe Sticks?
I don't know. I never know. I do believe him when he said, like, I don't like to influence guys' decisions, but they have to have at least talked about the possibility of them playing together
at least send a text and be like, so how bad is it, or is it bearable?
I took it differently. That was Sticks saying, I already did that. I don't want this be clogged up with DA. Let me get my shine.
I mean, they're supposedly starting him at the 4 anyway. Or are we saying that's DA's position now as well?
Yes, it is now.
Dun, dun, dun.
Poor Jalen.
I mean, he's in a good spot right now. Young team, gonna get to start, got a new contract. He's doing well for himself.
Yeah, he's not doing too bad. I mean, honestly, that's kind of the take that it's not surprising that everyone shared what they shared within that compilation of sound bites. Like, there is only so much that you can do as a player during free agency and with all these rumors surrounding you. And I think if you're a teammate of a guy who's going through that, you don't want to like add to the stress of all of that. You kind of just are checking in on them the same way you would do just a normal friend. You're not like, hey, what's going on? What's the news? It's just like, hey man, you doing cool? You good? Like, everything okay in your world? How's your son? How's your family?
Yeah.
Like, being a healthy distraction, if you will.
I would kill to be a fly on the wall in those group chats, though, because we've had, like, multiple Suns players say, yeah, we've been talking to DA. Like, we've talked to him. Okay, but, like, what about? Like, how like how far into it are you going?
Hey, can we help you pack up your house?
Is it just surface level catching up off-season stuff and trying to be a good friend and good teammate? Or, like, does it ever go beyond that point? I'm very curious to know.
I'm sure with some of the guys.
Yeah, like Mikal Bridges, probably
Mm-hmm.
deeper conversations because they're super tight. Mm-hmm. But with some guys, like Sticks was saying, I haven't really talked to him about it. I can't imagine those two having deep, intimate conversations around free agency in Indiana. Like, I don't know. No. I could be way off base, but it just doesn't.
I don't think you're way off base.
It just doesn't seem like it would be that.
I can't imagine DA having a deep conversation with anybody, really, like, just in terms of like where he's going to go or anything like that. I think he has his own mind on what he wants to do, and as much as Sticks is like, well, I don't want to influence your decision, I don't think he could, even if he tried. I think DA feels a certain way. He's been like that since high school. He kind of has his mind made up on what he perceives his options and him to be, and he's going to go that way. And that's one of the things I'm going to miss the most is if he does leave, is that I don't think we really appreciated the fact that DA was a great soundbite, and DA told us exactly what was on his mind. And I think he got shit on way too much for that, because I enjoy that. I want to hear what you really have to say. And there was so many times when, like even the video game thing, he's getting torched for that. And I'm like, that's the stupidest shit ever to get mad at over something like that about. So
But that's kind of that's what we do. And I don't mean we literally, it just in general, that's just kind of the nature of social media in 2022. Like, you read so far into something and you create something out of nothing most of the time, because it's 24/7 news cycles. We have to always create something to talk about, and something has to mean something, and there has to be some behind the scenes, like, sprinkling of truth to things in everything.
Well, and there always has to be some argument.
Sometimes.
It always has to be some debate. Like, and in part, I think that's because that's the way we've consumed sports since Pardon the Interruption started. It's debate shows and sound bites, and that's the way we've consumed it. And then Twitter came around, and that just became part of that same kind of echo chamber. So it's a lot of that, and in that comes one side has to staunchly be for, and one side has to staunchly be against. With that, there's not a lot of room for nuance and in between.
Yeah, I think it's just DA. Like, ever since he got drafted #1 overall, and because of what Luka and Trey have done, there's just always been this microscope on him, and I think some of it has been unfair, because we're nitpicking at the smallest of things sometimes to try and prove a point that he's not the guy that some people didn't want from the get-go. And it's just unfortunate because I do think he's he's one of the top centers we've ever had in this organization.
He's the top
alone.
center they've ever
You know
had.
what I mean? And so it's going to be pretty sad if he moves on and people just don't look back and appreciate some of the things that he did do. Like,
right. If he was drafted number 3 overall,
we would
be thrilled with the way that he's turned out. But because, and it's not even his fault. Like he didn't draft himself number 1 overall. Yeah. He didn't pass on Luka Doncic and Trae Young. Like that's the Suns' fault. But unfortunately, that comes with the territory of being a number 1 pick or even a top 5 pick who's taken over a superstar in the draft. It's just always going to happen. But it is unfortunate because he is a great soundbite. He's a good dude, and he has done some amazing things. I'm not going to say did because he's not gone yet, but it's looking that way. So it will be interesting to see what they get in
It's
return
comments
for him.
like this, right? Too legit. Aiden is Greg Oden 2.0.
No.
Not even remotely close,
Must
right?
have missed where DA has a bunch of knee injuries, never accomplished anything, and hardly played for the franchise.
I feel like he's already played more games than Greg Oden.
Like Mr. JJ Reed says, what if Luka and Trae, or he says Luka and Trae haven't won anything. I mean, if you're looking at team success, Ayton's been on the more successful teams.
Yeah, nobody's won anything from that draft. If you're going to do just ring or bust, like that's not there has to be something in between winning a championship and being a loser. Like otherwise there's no point in watching this sport because 29 fan bases are going to view their guys as losers. There are special things, there are special seasons, moments that don't end in a championship ring. Like we can't do this. Otherwise we're not enjoying basketball anymore. We're just hate watching it and looking for reasons to bag on guys. And that's part of what I don't like about this whole conversation about the NBA is when you give people unprecedented access to these athletes and then allow them to say whatever the hell they want about it on social media, this is where we end up. And it's frustrating. Like Kevin Durant has said this many times. A lot of people don't like basketball. They like to hate on basketball and to hate watch it. Yeah. And they're there for the drama.
I mean, look at what Booker's saying on social. Like, dude, everybody okay out here? Like, everybody kind of calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? And it's because there's a lot of vitriol going on out there for no reason. Like, dude, it's the off season. What are we complaining about right now? There's nothing to. Hey, the Mavs series has been over for 2 months. Like. Let it go, move on, and enjoy the team for what they are or what they could be. You know what I mean? Like, and we kept saying that throughout the season. Like, sometimes you just have to enjoy the moment because you never know when it's gonna end. And it sure as hell ended in a thump. But you kind of sit there and damn, 64 games. That's a pretty good season. It didn't end the way we wanted to, but you got to enjoy the ride a little bit. And I just think that people. They want to look for the negative so many times, and it's like, all right, well,
I'll be the historian here's the history on it. 50 plus years this team went trying to find a center, never having a franchise center, need to find that center. They find the guy, and after 4 years, they're like, well, we're just going to let him go. And it's, I know that the past and the history shouldn't have a big impact. It just seems funny to me because this guy easily in 4 years has accomplished more than any other true center has. Amari was a power forward. But yet we lose that perspective too. And
Jay in the chat says it perfectly. You can't talk basketball with everybody. Book.
And it was interesting being in Vegas, asking media people, former players, whatnot, about their thoughts on the Suns and everything that's going on here. And everybody seemed kind of surprised at how fast this situation has unraveled and didn't feel the need for, like, yes, if you can get KD, obviously do that. But when it came to DA and just all the rumors of blowing it up, they were kind of surprised that is even being stressed as an option. So sometimes it helps to have an outsider's perspective because there are about 25 other teams that look at the Suns and would be like, yeah, we would take that situation. We would take that core moving forward. And here in Phoenix, we're like, we've got to blow it up. It's not good enough. We can't run it back. Like, you can if you want to. If you don't get KD, that's your next best option at this point.
Well, and the thing, too, that blows my mind the most is, like, we're not even that far removed from being, like, so far down in the dumps.
Yeah.
And we're still angry.
Yeah.
Like, if we were in this situation, like, where we were just barely on the fringes for years, I can imagine being angry and ready to blow it up. But this is just 2 seasons.
Right.
2 seasons now. We've had nice things, and we're ready to throw it all away because it's not the nicest of things. Like, I think we just need to take a step back at times and be like, and remember where we came from, because things could be a hell of a lot worse.
2 things in the chat. Brian says, if DA's so good, how come nobody wants him? Restricted free agency. Teams don't want to offer something to a guy with not having the opportunity to really keep him in or having to trade assets that they maybe aren't comfortable doing. So that's a big part of it. And then somebody else, I don't remember who, here it is. It's another Brian. Are we even going to talk about Sarver and not paying a tax bill possibly? There's a chance that that's part of what's going on here, is not wanting to pay a large tax bill. I didn't want to believe it, but when you think about it, that could be part of what's coming into play here too.
But we don't know that for sure. That's pure speculation because James Jones told us it's not a big deal.
Yeah, but
so we're just speculating, of course, based on history. So it's not like it's out of nowhere. I get that. But we don't know for sure.
Right.
No, that's true. We don't know any of this for sure, though. That's the problem right now, is we're hearing a lot of things that are coming from multiple sides. We don't know anything right now, so you're trying to connect the dots in a lot of ways with the stuff.
Right. And if they did trade for Myles Turner, they'd be pushing up against even Myles Turner, who was only making like 17.5, 18 million. You'd be pushing right up against that line. So I doubt that's what's going on. It could be. If anyone does not deserve the benefit of the doubt, it's this particular owner in question. But we can only speculate until we know more at this point. I don't know if that's what it is. I do think, like you were talking about with Ayton, teams want Ayton. They just don't want to pay him a max. And the Suns were right on that point. You could argue they should have just paid him to keep everything even keel. But again, they wouldn't be in this position with KD if they had ponied up a 5-year max. So,
somebody in the chat said it's easy to say that, Espo, when it's not your money. If you are not willing to spend money, don't own a sports team.
Right.
Go do something that you can get greater returns and worry about the margins and base it on a spreadsheet. If you're owning a team, you spend to win a damn championship.
Right.
What did the Warriors spend? Over $400 million in luxury tax last year just to win the freaking championship? If you're not willing to put up the money, don't own a team. Go do something else.
That's a pretty weak argument anyway, just because like that theory is applicable to so many situations, even in our lives. If you buy a house, you have the responsibility to maintain it. If you buy a franchise, you have the responsibility to maintain it. You can't just let that shit go belly up, because that affects the community, that affects money, that affects revenue citywide, not just your organization. So miss me with that too.
And I'm sorry, I'm not caping for a billionaire to save his money.
Right.
Fuck that. Like, if you're going to own a team, that's what you're here for. No one should be on the owner's side if they have to spend money. Who know? Also, we have a Woj bomb here.
What is it?
After previously shutting down inquiries on moving all-star guard Donovan Mitchell, rival teams say the Utah Jazz are showing a willingness to listen on possible trade scenarios.
And there's your third team. Get it done.
So,
DA, enjoy Utah. Donovan, enjoy Brooklyn. And bring on Kevin Durant.
So if Donovan goes to Brooklyn in a potential 3-team trade there, that's a huge centerpiece. That's the type of player they're looking for, but you still have to find a new home for Ben Simmons because Donovan is on that 5-year.
Come on to Phoenix, Ben.
What about that transition there, Gerald? Hey, we were just kind of speculating, and we didn't really have a rundown for this portion.
We do.
Oh, do you want to get into it? Or?
Yes. Before we do that, though, let me tell the people about all the things they need to help them get through all of this shenanigans, right? Chef in the chat earlier said, all this drama, I need some OGs. And OGs is here to help you out. They even launched their first ever limited edition seasonal flavor, Pina Colada. So check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. I know, Espo, you like to dabble in some of the, what is it? Indica?
Indica.
That's the chill out one.
I did a hybrid while we were in Vegas, and that was an experience. I'll say that. But yes, the Indica is my favorite.
It was a great experience.
It was great for Saul. I was all over the place. But
Yeah, so, we also have a really cool sponsor if, maybe the scratch-made THC gummies from OG's is not your flavor. Four Peaks probably has your flavor with a wide variety of beer that you can go on down to the brewery. You can sample all of them. And once you decide which one's your favorite, you can head on over to your local grocery store, pick up a 6-pack or a full case and stock your fridge. All kinds of things, whatever it takes for you guys to get through this situation. That's how we feel over here. Whatever we need to kind of partake in to bring our anxiety levels down, to just, chill out for a few hours. We want you guys to be able to chill out as well. So whether it's OG's or Four Peaks, just a reminder once again that you must be 21 years or older and enjoy responsibly. All right, so now you can do your thing.
Well, no, we were just sitting there talking about, and we haven't gone through the numbers, but I'm kind of interested to see how many people, if the cost of bringing in KD had to be, you have to take Ben Simmons too, would you do it? Mm-hmm. And I said yes, because Ben Simmons crosses off 2 boxes for you. He could play the power forward position. And he could also play the backup point guard position. Mm-hmm. He might not be able to shoot a damn lick, and he's probably going to freeze up in the playoffs. But all you have to do is pass, man. I don't care if you sit at half court. Just pass.
Well, but he wouldn't even be he'd be at best your third option, maybe your fourth option in that offense, which I think takes away part of that freezing when you're
he'd be the fifth option on offense.
But I'm just saying, like, part of what happened in Philly was they needed him to carry a lot of that offensive load. I wouldn't mind it. I don't know if you can make those numbers work, because you're taking in $80 million onto this, which becomes a lot that you'd have to try to figure out. But if that's the tax of bringing on KD,
about that. I forgot
what?
About
the Kendall, whatever. These guys are aware that they've dated, they've fooled around and dated a lot of the same women.
Not an issue
but the rookie
whatsoever.
deal rule, Levi Ashton is saying would be in effect, but that's not true.
Book's got a supermax, so it's
washed off, right?
Correct.
I think so.
But does that start this year?
Yeah, the Supermax doesn't start until 2024.
But since he signed it, doesn't he count
I will
on
be
that?
honest, I'd have to look into the rules of that.
We're going to have to dig into the bylaws of the CBA to try to figure out what the hell this rule is.
But that's the thing, is like, just looking at salaries, like Ben Simmons, if you're talking about a 3-team trade with Utah involving Mitchell, Ben Simmons would have to go to Utah. Like, he's not coming here because he's making $35 million. KD's making 40 some. Like, you're having to send out like 70, 80 million contract. Like, Mikal Bridges is gone because you have to include his 21 million. DeAndre Ayton's gone. Cam Johnson probably gone. Like, Jay Crowder gone.
We're probably operating on the assumption that Mikal Bridges is going to go either way, right?
Not
Probably. I mean, not if the Nets are getting Donovan Mitchell. I will say that that's the kind of player that maybe it makes it a little easier to go Cam Johnson instead of Mikal, especially if you're just throwing the entire bag of draft picks at them. And the Jazz have extra picks that they could throw in as well, depending on what they're getting back, because they got a haul from the Rudy Gobert trade.
Vaughn made a good point. The rule that is preventing the Nets from taking on another rookie max doesn't apply to the Suns. You can only trade for one.
Right.
Devin Booker was a homegrown player, so that rule doesn't apply because you have 2 on rookie maxes.
That's
so
right.
you could take it, but your point on the money is 100% right. He probably goes to Utah, which then maybe you're getting a piece like Bogdanovich, the lesser Bogdanovich, or Jordan Clarkson from Utah instead, which then becomes a nice little addition.
I do feel like as we've kind of progressed through these conversations over the course of the last month, that we've gone from I just want KD to what else can we get? Right?
Get greedy.
We get a little greedy, but it's okay because, listen, that's part of this discussion. And I've said it multiple times. If you trade too much for KD, you run the risk of being the same team. because you have too many other holes to fill. I understand KD is a generational talent, but if you trade 12 dudes to get him, it's not going to work.
It's irrelevant at that point because it's like, okay, we have KD and we're in the exact same situation we just came from.
I'd argue you're not, because now you have multiple players who could create their own shot, which you didn't have in there. Your offense is more dynamic than it was the
1 through 4
before.
it would be, yes.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, what it came down to was your 1 through 4 couldn't get it done and your bench completely disappeared. In this case, your 1 through 4 would be able to get it done, and then, okay, how do we supplement that those pieces with vet minimums and other guys, which now you have that team, it becomes more compelling to join the Suns. So I think you'd be in a better position even if you had to trade McHale as part of this or whatever the case. You're in a better position than you were last year because it makes it easier for Booker to score too.
All right, so I've been trying to crunch some numbers here and work out a 3-team trade while we've been talking about this.
So you mean the 3-team trade that you came up with before the show started that we were going to talk about is now thrown out the window?
No, not. This is a supplement because the Pacers thing is still obviously on the table, I think, but the Jazz thing is intriguing to me because. So in this, if you can get Donovan Mitchell to Brooklyn, then that takes a lot of the load off the Suns to supply Mikal Bridges. I think that if you're the Nets and you're getting like Cam Johnson, Donovan Mitchell, maybe Malik Beasley from the Jazz, and a shit ton of picks, that's not bad for KD. I know that they're setting the bar super high, but at some point they've got to look themselves in the mirror and be like, okay, but what can we like really get? Because you're not going to get Scotty Barnes from the Raptors and whatnot. I'm playing around with the math here. I'm going to have to double check this. But like, if you're the Suns and you're getting KD, you're sending Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, and all of the picks to Brooklyn. The Jazz are sending Malik Beasley, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Donovan Mitchell to Brooklyn. And then the Jazz are getting DA, Ben Simmons, Dario Saric, and probably some picks from somebody. I don't know. No, that's probably not enough for Donovan Mitchell. You need picks somewhere.
So maybe there's a 4th team thrown in there?
Oh, God.
Well, okay, because the reason why this topic kind of came up in the first place outside of the Woj bomb that we just talked about was because earlier today, Woj had said that the Heat are the, quote, most determined team to land Kevin Durant, but that they and the Suns, who are still in the mix, will likely need a 3rd, maybe even a 4th team to make it happen, and that the Raptors are basically out because Scotty Barnes is a non-starter.
I'm going to say this right now before we even get down the road. Woj is sometimes I'm like, Woj, you're full of shit right now. Like, no, there's no way that the Heat are the most like intense on getting KD because they don't really have much wiggle room. If they trade, who are you trading for KD in that?
Okay. The Utah thing might open the door for them, though.
Right. The same way that it opens the door for the Suns, it could also be something for the Heat because the Heat need, if Bam has to be included, then you also got to get rid of Ben Simmons. In the same situation here.
Utah needs a center. Maybe
around.
Bam's the guy they want if, instead of DA. Like, there's a window that opens for both teams with this now. And I think there's an opportunity that what Woj is probably saying is that Miami's been hounding a third team more than the Suns have and trying to find that third partner. But the thing is, if you have to involve a third team, it comes down to, do they want DA? Do they want Bam? What are they most interested in? Because if Donovan Mitchell's the piece that Brooklyn wants, now there's multiple teams in play, and is your offer the one that third team wants, not just the Nets? It becomes more complex.
But I do get what you're saying, Saul, even outside of this Miami Heat thing. When he did share that little update, a lot of the comments were Woj was basically just...
He's a mouthpiece for the Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets mouthpiece.
That's it. That's all he's doing. He's been like that the whole time through this whole thing.
But the thing is that you also have to remember is Brooklyn is obviously talking to him, and the Suns obviously are not. So Woj is going to share what information he's getting, regardless of which side it's coming from. He can't not share things that he's hearing.
My problem is that Woj is being a mouthpiece for the Brooklyn Nets, but he's not really talking about the reasons why Kevin Durant and Kyrie both want out. He's not mentioning any of that shit because they don't want to bring up Steve Nash and how much those motherfuckers hate him. Like, that's just the real talk.
Because you have to play both sides.
Look, look, an insider's only as good as the person giving him information. I mean, that's the truth. Like, I love Flex, but we know where Flex's information is coming from. Same with Gambo. Like, that's just the insider game. You're getting information from usually, a lot of times it is one-sided. And then you got to decide, am I disseminating this or not? But when it comes to Kevin Durant, anything is moving the needle right now, and what a guy like Woj and even anybody in that situation is paid for is move the needle somehow. So if you're giving Nets information because that's who's talking to you, your decision is I say absolutely nothing or I drop something that moves the needle for my network.
And for the security of his job, he's going to drop what he's being told.
Sure. But you're right. Nash is a big problem in all this. I mean, we saw it at Summer League where they asked one of the guys on the Summer League roster a question about Steve Nash, and he rolled his freaking eyes on national TV about it. Yeah. That was a second-year guy. So how do you think Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving feel? Yeah, because you could tell he regretted it when he realized, oh, yeah, there's a camera on me when I did this. So
that was a really awkward situation. Like, it was like secondhand embarrassment watching it. Because, yikes. I don't know. But would you still like to go over the trade that you put together?
Which, the Pacers one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well,
despite the fact that now Utah is mixed
what day is it?
Yeah, hold on one second.
Oh, right.
God.
What day is it?
Trade Machine Tuesday. Trade Machine Tuesday. Trade Machine Tuesday.
Lindsay's just so mad right now.
Just keep playing it on a loop until Lindsay introduces the trade.
The fury in Lindsay's eyes.
Give the people what they want.
I think she's just mad because she'd never wear blue. The meme is just not correct.
It's funny. It's a good joke. But I'm gonna need y'all to stop.
Don't say y'all.
Saw something
because the chat
it's a good joke.
on social media, they are clamoring for it.
I'm just teasing. It's funny. If you guys like it, that's cool. But once Trade Machine Tuesday dies, that's going to die with it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, is it ever going to die?
Will it ever die?
I don't know.
feel like it needs to, because then it's just going to get old.
We're just going to find other things you say to auto-tune then. That's what we're going to do.
That's fine.
That's another wrinkle to the longer this Kevin Durant situation plays out.
The longer this lasts.
The longer Trade Machine Tuesday lives.
Which is another reason why I'm hoping that it just ends like tomorrow.
I mean, but maybe we change Trade Machine Tuesday from players to things that we would trade in our personal lives.
I love it.
We can do so many different things with this. It's so flexible.
Eli in the chat said Trade Machine Tuesday is my Tuesday alarm.
I really hope that's true.
Bless your heart. I have to wake up to that every Tuesday.
I hope this dude's just waking up to Lindsay singing about trades every Tuesday.
Brian in the chat, what is dead may never die.
Okay, well, Gerald, you want to tell us about your trade that you worked up?
Yeah, sure. Let's pull that trade up. So this was originally Malcolm Brogdon was going to the Nets, but he went to the Celtics, so I revamped it a little bit. So in this deal, the Suns are getting Kevin Durant and Myles Turner. The Nets are getting Jay Crowder, Buddy Hield, Mikal Bridges, and I think, 4 picks from the Suns, or 3 picks from the Suns, first round unprotected, 2 or 3 pick swaps, and then a first rounder from the Pacers that they got in the Malcolm Brogdon deal from the Celtics. And then the Pacers are getting Deandre Ayton, Cam Payne, Day'Ron Sharpe, and a first rounder from the Suns. So 3 firsts from the Suns and 3 pick swaps going to the Nets, an additional first going to the Pacers. I think that works financially because the Pacers have cap space. They would need to free up a little bit more to be able to sign him to that max deal, but it's not impossible for them to do that. The Suns get their guy and a starting caliber center. And they lose. Who do they lose? I think they kept. Did they keep Mikal or did they keep Cam?
You're the one that proposed this trade.
I'm sorry, my head is still swimming. There's so many trades, but they're keeping one of their wings,
which is a positive. You need to hang on to at least one
of them.
Right?
I'm not gonna lie, Gerald. It's all a blur right now. It's just all. Right? It's just all over the place.
I'm in a Vegas daze still.
The one thing that I will say is, and it's been mentioned multiple times in the chat, friend of the program Flex is getting a lot of love because he's been saying that the potential out there wasn't necessarily Indiana, but it was going to be Donovan Mitchell going to the Brooklyn Nets, to the point where Flex is now all but certain that KD is coming to the Suns. So I hope he's right because he's been right a lot of times, and he's getting a lot of love for a lot of positive reasons. So hey.
And I believe in the moment where he's getting this information, it's 100% accurate. The problem is these things can change on a dime. So until it's done, I'm going to look at all the possibilities and what could happen. But I believe what Flex is saying. It's just now, can they actually accomplish it before somebody like Miami finds a way to get a better deal on the table? Because it seems like Sean Marks is a tough guy to sell right now, and maybe Donovan Mitchell's on the table now, and then he's like, yeah, but we need another all-star. Like, God knows what they're asking for in terms of all this.
And like Flex has been saying that they're trying to get KD here in Phoenix this whole time, and that is completely factual, right? And then he shares some of his thoughts and opinions and feelings about the situation, like how secure he feels in the fact that it is going to happen or it isn't going to happen. But you can't deny the fact that the Suns are in play to try and get KD here in the Valley, which is exactly what Flex has been saying.
And you can't deny that until it's done, there's always that possibility that a dark horse comes in here and gets the deal done before they do. So that's why you just got to look at it.
I want to go to a couple of the comments about the trade that we threw out there. Someone was asking why the Nets would do this. I understand, like, Mikal Bridges, Buddy Hield, Jay Crowder, not the best player package that you're aspiring for if you're the Nets, but also the longer this drags on, again, the lower that bar becomes. And they are getting a grand total of, 4 unprotected firsts plus 3 pick swaps. Like, the picks are always going to be there. Somebody commented, so the Suns don't have a pick till, 2029 pass. If you're trading for Kevin Durant and you're not willing to give up both of your wings, you're going to have to throw all the picks at this situation.
Well, and we already learned that James Jones isn't the biggest fan of the draft, so it's really not that big of a deal.
And you can thank that bullshit Rudy Gobert trade for that, because they got 4 first rounders for Rudy freaking Gobert. The Nets are not going to settle for anything less for Kevin Durant.
And if you're playing well, which is the hope, right, that you would be a contending team, you're not going to have a top draft pick anyway.
Right.
Well, and the reason the Nets accept this is because at some point Kevin Durant's going to say, I'm not coming back to you, so get this done and figure out a way to get whatever you can, otherwise this is going to get ugly. And at that point, you accept an offer. Look, people are calling me pessimistic. I like to look at it as realism. In life, things aren't done till they're done. So don't celebrate until it's done. Like, that's my only point.
It ain't over till it's over. Lenny Kravitz fans? Okay. I'll shut up.
Oh, we need to get that one in
go ahead.
a GIF.
More. Put some oomph behind your voice there, Saul.
No, I know what I'm doing. No, I know what I'm doing.
He's not trying to find himself
I'm not
on
trying
a
to find
GIF
myself on a
recurring
meme.
segment.
Shane, we could always boost the volume on that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can.
Shane,
always a
with
way.
the shaking of the head, I appreciate you, sir.
After the fact that Shane and I bonded over panda slots this weekend, and he's still not on my team,
The greatest moment ever.
I've rarely seen it.
wow.
I'm forever in Lindsay's debt for that, so I'll do it every day.
Wow. Thanks, Shane.
I've
Appreciate
rarely
that.
seen
I'm
a
glad
human
you finally
being that
came
happy.
around.
Can we just get to the best trade that can be made here? So
Sure,
we can end the
Espo.
show?
Let's
That's
do
a hell
that.
of a way to
I've-
tee it up.
I've figured out a way to fix all the problems here. Originally, we had said, hey, let's make Trade Machine Tuesday that doesn't involve DeAndre Ayton and Kevin Durant. And I went, all right, Jay Crowder and 2 second-rounders for Jakob Poeltl. I fixed it. There we go.
I saw this and I was like, stay out of my territory.
Hey, look,
Like Walter
you
White
sold me
style.
on Jakob. I'm in. I want Jock and Jakob as my 2 centers, and
Jock.
we'll rock it.
Yak and Jock.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yak and Jock.
Yak
I
and
still
Jock.
think that there would be a lot of great content that you could create with the two of them.
Look, I'm just saying, if the Suns make a trade for KD and they don't manage to get a starting caliber center in the mix, Jakob Poeltl should be their next trade target with whatever they have left, because he's only making like $9 million. He'd be a good starting caliber center, underrated guy, and he probably wouldn't come at that high of a cost. Other teams are going to look at him, but like, the Spurs are tanking. So if you can throw them just anything and get him out of that, that's a pretty stacked starting 5.
That's why I did it. I knew Gerald would be my hack man. So there we go. And thank you, Jan. You're not pessimistic. You're a Suns fan, is what he says, and that is accurate. So
I'm not mad at the idea of having Poeltl come over to this team, but I personally, if I'm the Suns, and just like from my, like right now as it stands, I don't want to mess around with anybody or any other trades until we know what the situation with KD is.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's an aftermath trade. That's not a
That's my whole thing. Like when you sent that over, I was like, yeah, this is good. I'm okay with this. But like later.
Look, I figure if you're going to trade all your first round picks, you might as well start working on trading all your second round picks
I
too.
guess so. Why
get
not?
out of all of it,
Ain't
right?
gonna use them anyway.
Yeah, get out of them all. Let's just do it.
I'm not on board with this Pirtle trade, just so we all know where I stand. Every time I rub my face, it's because I'm stressed out at Pirtle coming to the Suns.
You want Biz
I don't
as
like
your
Pirtle.
starting center?
I don't like him. I think he's trash. I don't care what the numbers say. I think he's trash.
You don't
but
care
that's okay.
You don't care what the numbers, film, and people that actually watch him play say.
No,
All right, well,
I've seen him too many times.
tough to win an
to like
argument.
his game. I don't like him.
Well,
Bo Cruz.
I guess we shall see.
yeah.
Just a quick reminder to everyone out there that as the summer is becoming more and more, we're in the thick of it. We're going to start going on vacations and hanging out with friends more, all the things. We want to make sure that you guys are staying safe and healthy. So COVID-19 vaccines, they're free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location near you. Make sure you guys are vaxxed, boosted, and ready to take on all the fun things of the summer. Any final thoughts, you guys?
Yeah, I love that we say, hey, we're going to go like 35, 40 minutes. We're well over an hour now. So, Sun's off season, baby.
It's my favorite part of the show.
Sorry about that. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. And we will be back tomorrow, same place, same time, 2 p.m. right here on our YouTube channel. Or you can catch us at any point in time, wherever you listen to your podcast.
On Thursday, we'll have an early show. Or not a show at all. It might just be audio only. So that will be that will be a schedule change for Thursday.
We're going to go play paintball.
Yeah, I'm going to light
Someone's
Lindsay up.
going to get hurt. Likely me.
That's all 3 of our events so far.
Yeah.
I might not play low key. I'm just saying. I low key might not play.
All it's going to take is Lindsay to get hit one time, and the rest of us are
Yep,
dead.
she's going to throw a gun up in the air. I'm done. I'm
She's going to turn into Rambo with a
she's gonna,
paintball gun.
Steal all of our guns and just go at it with the
Listen.
paintballs.
The problem that I have realized is that I don't mind being aggressive with all of you guys, but there are a certain group of young gentlemen in this company
Oh,
that
boy.
don't realize that you can't go for the freaking face.
Sean's
Okay?
on
So I don't trust you guys.
Sean's on vacation.
I just don't trust it.
Sean's not here.
Shane, you almost whacked me in the face too, sir. Anyway, we'll see. Thanks for tuning in. Until tomorrow, you can follow me on Twitter at LindsaySmithAZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Espo at Espo. And of course, you can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. Espo, take us home.
Remember, don't go for the face. Oh.
Hey yo, my lifestyle is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B.